You know
You want
what?
to go? Or...
Yeah, okay, I could go. Yeah, I wanted to talk about because in the previous episode we spoke about hip Will Smith, and I mentioned briefly Heavy D, and I every Heavy D and the Boy album, Heavy D and the Boys album, I bought, and he was, there was something about him, his persona that he gave. He looked
Uh-huh.
like a great, like a fun guy. He looked like a very genuine person, and his music was very different. There was no, apart from blue funk, but he didn't sort of curse. He didn't feel as if he had to degrade women. He just seemed to talk and rap about
Right.
fun things. And I
And
you
being,
know go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, and being a heavyweight lover, Heavy D.
Yeah, yeah. So not no, like look, I may be overweight,
All
and
about
that,
love. Yeah.
that's me. And I just wonder, when we think about hip hop greats, we think of people like Pac and Biggie, and Jay-Z like to
Right.
throw his name in there every now and then. We remember Rakim with his type of flow. But I do wonder how where Heavy D and the Boys, or Heavy D himself, fits in, because he's been there
Yeah.
since the beginning, and sadly before he passed away, he was still hits after hits after hits. I mean, what are your thoughts
Right. I
about
mean,
him?
we do not talk enough about Heavy D and the Boys. We do
Yeah.
not talk enough about them. They were very influential. And what they were able to do, I remember you talking to Jimmy Love Jenkins, I believe his last name
Yeah,
is, and
yeah,
his whole, discussion on Uptown, and they had limited resources, and they were able to compete with the big acts out at the time, and Heavy was just dropping these platinum albums in the
yeah.
beginning, just these big hits. And I don't think he gets credit for his lyrical abilities. He had a
Mhm.
lot of tongue twister type raps.
Yeah,
I could,
yeah.
I can't do it, but
You got close. That was close.
you know, and he had some great big hits. Like he had the one, "Now that we got
Yep, yep,
love,
yep.
what
That
up."
was a top five
I
there.
love that song. That's one of
Yeah.
the first songs I discovered. I remember I told you my mother had a record collection, and whenever I
Yeah.
would see that little, I guess it's a fox or whatever, that
It
Uptown
was a top
logo.
cat. Yeah, it was an uptown cat. Yeah,
Okay,
it was
as
like
a
that.
cat,
Top cat. Yeah.
and I would look for two things: Teddy Riley and Heavy D. Like I was like, that's what I wanted to see. And so many great hits. The first album, all the way to the end, and it's unfortunate that I think music changed, but he had a long career though when you think about
Yeah,
it, from the
yeah,
mid '80s all the way to the late '90s. So, and then he actually was so talented and so big, he actually became the president of Uptown at one point.
yeah.
So
And I do. Yeah,
definitely,
I think it was probably one of his things. He didn't. Maybe he didn't. Especially after he signed So For Real. But I think that was the area that he said he didn't like the business side. It took away from his fun side, and
yeah,
maybe I don't know, seeing the contracts and seeing how people were getting paid and having to be that person, he just turned away. He stepped down, which was, um, yeah. And once he stepped down, they folded MC Uptown Records. He was the last.
mhm,
Once he said, "No, I'm not going to do that," they just folded the label, and everyone went up to Universal at the time. But yeah, no, as I said, when you think of um, you know, he kept it in, he kept in his lane. He didn't, especially when you had gangster rap coming through from the West Coast,
mhm.
and you had the East Coast talking about stuff within their hoods and money. And he just continued talking about love and relationship throughout.
Yeah,
It was almost his theme, and I'm going to stick with that. And he had his niche, he had his audience. He tried to go hard with blue funk, which was the which was an experiment. It was his lowest selling CD when gold,
mhm,
and then he went back to the next album was Nothing But Love, which
right,
was his biggest selling CD, when he had We Got Nothing But Love For You and Black Coffee, and
yeah.
yeah,
He's one that I wish you would have had an opportunity to interview, because I think when you think about his discography, um, after one of his, his close friend died, and that was a
Yeah,
part of it.
Trouble T-Boy. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I think there was a change in the music a little bit. It just seems like that next album was a little bit more. I don't want to say somber, but it was just like you could tell that there was a shift in the music a little bit.
yeah,
And it's interesting to see how artists, how things, the different events in their lives change the actual music. So I think he was trying different things and seeing where, what, emotionally where he was at, and also trying to stay, current. But there aren't any songs that you can think of that, really stand out for you.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, and I hope you guys will check out the interview that I did with G Wiz from Heavy D and the
yeah,
Boys, because
that was a good one.
G Wiz was one of the dancers, and when Troy died, fell off, was pushed, almost had to jump
Oh,
out the way from somebody pushing a play, one of the dancers from Kid and Play, pushing a barrel towards him, and he
mm,
had to jump out the way, and he fell to his death. They had to
oh,
go. They had to go and they had to go to the next city and go and tour. There was no, there was no.
grieving process
Yeah,
or
they couldn't take time off and relax. They had to just keep performing, and they kept performing. And he just says, "No, I just couldn't do it anymore." That he told Hev, "This is the last album. I can't do it after that." And that's how they officially. And he didn't. He couldn't even go on. Yeah, so it was tough because I think Heavy had so much energy and light and love, but to
right.
note that they were, what was going on behind the scenes and stuff. So
Yeah, they were so young too. To have something so horrific happen when everyone's young and having fun on tour, and it's like the greatest thing ever to be,
yeah,
starting to have success and people know your name, and you're with your peers and having fun, and then something like that happens
yeah, yeah.
and you don't have a chance to process it,
No, I mean,
and you
I
don't
don't
get
know.
any
Yeah,
help.
no
You don't get
help.
any help from the label, no mental, any crisis counselors or anything,
No,
nothing.
goodness, no, no,
Okay, we got
no.
another show to do, guys.
Yeah, and
Terrible.
because the manager's saying that this is everything's been paid for, it's coming up to your budget and stuff. So, um, as I said, they will, I will, hopefully, within a month or two, we'll try and do a tribute to Heavy D, and
Yeah.
the boys, just to remind people of his legacy, because I think that, not to be underestimated, he was, Lily said that when her mom passed away, Heavy sent flowers
Flowers,
to
yeah.
her, that they couldn't even put them all in the funeral home, and he didn't. She said that he was the only one that really reached out to that level, and that's the sort of the heart that we know him about and stuff. And he came out when with Monifa, so for real, when he said,
Right.
okay,
He introduced a lot of
introduced us,
artists.
yeah, but anyway, so yeah, just you guys, any thoughts and any memories of Heavy Dean and the boys, your favorite album by them, and any favorite songs, and just any memories that you have of Heavy Dean and the boys, that'd be great to hear. Thanks for watching the show today.
And before we go, remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
Yeah, but also remember to hit the notification button so you can be notified when we have a future show.
That too.
All
All
right.
right. See you
Thanks,
next time.
guys.